The bell rope slapped against bronze once, hard enough to make the throne hall's ribs hum, and Chancellor Brevik Thorn lifted his hand toward Jasper Silvermane as if he were introducing a singer, not stripping a crown. By succession code, he said, voice polished like pewter. The provisional Luna must step down from the moon dais pending replacement deliberation. The white stone under Jasper's boots was cold through leather. Moonlight from the high slits struck the silver inlay at her feet. A ring of wolves, their jaws open toward the throne. Around that ring stood 47 pack delegates in travel furs and court silk, shoulder to shoulder with nobles who smelled of lamp oil and clove wine. Elder Sable Cor sat with 8 other ash circle judges, 9 cloaks in a row, all charcoal wool, all hands folded. General Ivo Dane watched from the right column line, thumb hooked in his sword belt, expression carved flat. King Alaric Voss did not stand when Brevik finished speaking. He went still, then less than still. The skin at his neck tightened, his pupils widened, and when he turned toward the Chancellor, his upper lip pulled back over his canines in a wolf-bear snarl that made 3 delegates flinch as one body. "Don't," Brevik snapped, taking half a step backward. "Your Majesty, don't bring Beastlaw onto—" "I invoke the Ash Circle right," Jasper said, before anyone could move a hand to steal. Her voice landed in the center of the hall like a thrown coin. On this dais, under this bell, before these witnesses. Silence did not follow. It fractured into breath. Cloth rustle, chair scrape, a delegate's low curse, the bell's fading tremor, and Alaric's rough inhale as he wrestled his jaw shut. Elder Sable lifted his staff of black ash, tapped it once on stone, and said, "Claim is heard." The tap sent Jasper backward 3 years in a single pulse, to mud, blood, and the taste of iron rain at Red Ford. At Red Ford in 1421, treaty parchment had stuck to Jasper's fingers because her gloves were gone and her hands would not stop shaking from cold. The river carried shields like dead leaves. They had run out of arrows before dusk, and when the western banners broke, civil war ceased to be threat and became arithmetic. If the fractured packs kept fighting, there would be no spring planting, no tax wagons, no throne at all by winter. Jasper had trained as envoy before that year, before anyone called her Luna. Her tutors had hammered treaty clauses into her with the same rhythm blacksmiths used for rivets. Define terms, mark coercion, mark consent, mark witness, they would say. And she could still feel the wax-board stylus in her fingers while soldiers bled 10 paces away. Alaric was not yet king when they first argued over wording. He was war heir then, fur on his shoulders, mud up to his knees, asking what shape of oath might stop brothers from gutting brothers for borderlines drawn before either of them was born. The treaty right that claimed Jasper was held under a torn campaign awning smelling of wet horse and tallow smoke. It was coercion dressed as salvation. Bind the warring houses through them or watch the valley burn. Jasper's jaw ached from clenching when she repeated the words. Alaric's hand over hers was steady but wrong in the way manacles can be steady. A bond formed. Everyone cheered because everyone was terrified. No one called it romance, not then and not after. They called it necessary, and the word was used to silence anything gentler. In 1422, once Alaric wore the crown and the court had walls around it again, the council entered Jasper as Provisional Luna in the succession rolls. Elder Sable read the entry aloud in the record chamber, voice spare and exact, pending 3 winters of sustained peace and heir deliberation. The phrase hung over everything like scaffolding no one bothered to hide. Provisional meant every feast had an empty chair in its shadow. Provisional meant every petition Jasper touched came with 1 extra bow and 1 extra test. Mara Reed sat 2 stools down from Sable that day, Omega scent hidden under mint resin, writing with a reed pen sharpened so fine the nib clicked against vellum. She was court scribe then, no title beyond the work, No ring beyond plain iron. When the seal box came out, Mara Reed counted every signet impression aloud under her breath, not for anyone's ears but her own memory. Jasper noticed because she was learning where truth lived in that palace, and truth did not live in speeches. It lived in custody chains, wax impressions, and whether a witness could repeat the order of hands. By the first winter after Red Ford, caravans began arriving late from the border granaries. By the second, 3 packs filed complaints about levy shortages. By the third, rumor hardened into argument. Jasper had no blood heir. Jasper was treaty made. Jasper should step aside before spring councils. She heard the words in corridor corners before anyone dared bring them to the dais. She also knew Brevik Thorn controlled levy ledgers through chancellery custody. Every manifest and treasury receipt crossed his desk first. He was immaculate in public. Cuffs white, legal citations ready, eyes never still. He praised order like a priest and moved coin like a smuggler. On the morning of the winter conclave in 1424, Mara Reed met Jasper in the archive passage, where mortar dust smelled like old bread. She carried a roll case strapped tight with blue cord and did not bow because both women had stopped pretending years ago. He requested the succession code tablet before dawn, Mara Reed said. Brevik? Mara nodded once. And the border ledgers were removed last night from primary shelf. By whose hand? Chancellor Custody Mark. Her jaw flexed. Mara Reed copied the seal registry before it was taken. Jasper looked at the blue cord in Mara Reed's hands. How much? Enough to sink a man if anyone listens. Will they? Mara Reed glanced toward the passage arch where torchlight smoked along carved stone wolves. Not unless Jasper makes them sit. She opened the case just enough for Jasper to see the layered packets inside. Thin waxed wraps, tied by color and date, each marked in Mara's narrow script. The scribe had gone further than caution. She had prepared as if expecting confiscation, and she had hidden nothing from Jasper's eyes. What about duplicates? Jasper asked. 2 sets, Mara replied. One here, one in the cracked chimney alcove behind old treaty maps. If someone takes this roll case at hall entry, the second still exists. Jasper exhaled. If this goes wrong, they will come for you first. They already did, politely, Mara said. A chancellery runner asked why a scribe needed copies of root manifests. Mara Reed told him scribes need copies because lords lose originals. Despite everything, Jasper almost smiled. You should never joke before a trial. It was not a joke. At noon, the hall filled. At bell call, Brevik made his demand. At Alaric's snarl, the room split down in visible grain. At Jasper's invocation, Law returned to the center of the room, where all 47 delegates could see it. Elder Sable rose with visible stiffness, robe hem whispering over the dais step. He held up the succession code board, oak darkened by hand oil, carved runes in silver paste, and read exactly what justified the challenge, because he would not let custom drift into theater. Clause 12, he said, voice carrying to the far arches. A Luna entered as provisional may be challenged at winter conclave after 3 winters, if peace conditions or air deliberation remain unsettled. His eyes moved from board to Jasper. Clause 15. The challenged Luna may submit to withdrawal, or invoke Ash Circle right for immediate evidentiary hearing under witness bell. Brevik bowed toward Sable, then toward the delegates. Procedure compels us. Procedure is not absolution, Jasper said. The first beat of public shaming should have folded Jasper. It did not. It welded private dread to public form where everyone could inspect it. She felt her pulse at the base of her throat like fingers pressing from inside, but her knees stayed straight. Brevik wanted her to retreat into chambers and bargain in corridors where no one counted words. The moon dais denied him that. General Ivo Dane stepped forward enough for his boot heel to strike stone. If Ash Circle proceeds, he said, gaze fixed on Sable, City guard needs instruction. Hall doors remain sealed or open? Sable answered without looking away from Jasper. Sealed until recess. Witnesses remain. Ivo gave one curt nod. Understood. That mattered more than his sword. A war captain who chose order in the first minute of crisis told the crowd which way the floor would tilt. Brevik spread his hands to the hall like a host at banquet. Then let us proceed. The succession petition has signatures from 12 houses and levy wards. Submitted this morning, Mara Reed said from the scribe benches. Every face turned. Mara stood with her roll case braced against her hip, chin lifted, no tremor in her voice. Petition seals entered after dawn bell. Registry order altered after custody transfer. Brevik's smile sharpened. Court scribe speaks out of turn. I speak under Ash Circle witness call, Mara Reed said, and looked to Sable. The judge raised his staff 2 inches. She speaks. Brevik's nostrils flared. The challenge had stopped being scripted. Jasper wanted to walk to Mara then, put a hand on her shoulder, claim loyalty in front of everyone. Protocol forbade it until witness order was set, so Jasper stayed where moon-inlaid stone pinned her. The humiliation of standing still while others discussed her removal burned under her skin, yet the old envoy lessons held. Define terms, mark coercion, mark witness. Sable struck staff to stone 3 times to open evidentiary order. First hearing, legitimacy of challenge. Second hearing, if required, petition integrity and associated levies. We recess at sunfall and reconvene by same bell if dispute remains unresolved. Brevik inclined his head as if indulging children. No second hearing will be required. He did not know Mara Reed had spent months memorizing numbers because she trusted memory less than ink, and ink less than chain of custody. He did not know Jasper had asked her to copy manifests every time chancellery runners came in with mud on their cuffs. He had mistaken low rank for low capacity, and he would pay for that miscalculation. Alaric finally stood. The movement pulled every gaze back to the throne line. He looked like a man carrying storm in his bones, shoulders locked, fingers flexing once against carved armrest. I will not adjudicate, he said, voice rough. Ash Circle holds this floor. Brevik dipped again, but there was sweat at his temples now. As your majesty commands. Alaric's eyes found Jasper's for one breath. No tenderness, no theatrical pledge, only a raw acknowledgement that invoking right had forced him to choose law in public. He chose it. The hearing began with ritual recitation, then attack. Brevik argued the 3 winters had passed. Heir question remained. Therefore, replacement deliberation served stability. He paced in a narrow half-circle, tapping 2 fingers against his document tube for emphasis, each tap precisely timed with legal citation. Jasper answered from the dais center. Clause 12 permits challenge. It does not compel removal without evidence of unfitness, breach, or bad faith petition origin. Brevik smiled thinly. Bad faith is a serious claim. So is theft. The words struck like flint. Delegates shifted, whispers rising, then cutting off when Sable lifted his staff. Jasper saw Ivo's hand settle on sword pommel and release. Control, not threat. Sable said, claims of theft move hearing to evidentiary stage if witness and record are produced. Mara Reed has both, Jasper said. Mara stepped forward into the speaking circle marked by iron studs in stone. She knelt, placed her blue-bound roll case on the floor, and broke the cord seal with deliberate care so everyone could see the intact wax chip free and fall. State your office, Sable ordered, court scribe under record oath. State basis. I maintain seal custody logs for ledger transfer and petition entry. She withdrew a narrow registry board and held it up. On the last dark phase before conclave, Chancellor Brevik took custody of border levy ledgers. His mark is here. Ledgers returned with petition packet after dawn bell. Petition seals entered out of original sequence. Brevik cut in. Sequence variance is common. Mara did not look at him. Not in this hall. Not under this registry method. Sable gestured. Demonstrate. Mara moved to the long evidence table where sand trays and weight stones lay ready. Her fingers flew. She arranged seal impressions in the order entered, set the petition wax beside old house marks, then pointed to compression depth and edge spread. These 6 were stamped while wax was cooler than entry standard. These 2 were pressed with a signet ring at an angle inconsistent with the original house marks. This one contains ash grit from Chancellery hearth, not from delegate tent braziers where signatures were allegedly gathered. Brevik laughed once, too loud. We are trying rank, not ash. We are trying integrity, Jasper said. Sable's brows drew together. Proceed to levies. Mara unrolled 12 caravan manifests, each tied with a different twine color for route, each bearing dispatch marks from border granary gates. She laid them in a row like ribs. Then she set treasury receipt tablets beside them, paired by date and load weight. Grain caravans diverted, 12, Mara said. Levy silver missing when matched by expected tariff yield, 18,000 marks. Voices erupted. Not panic this time, outrage shaped by numbers. Delegates leaned forward, counting with her as she tapped each manifest with the butt of her pen. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 12, every pair missing coin. Arithmetic left little room for escape. Brevik tried to reclaim air. Border raids explain losses. Mara lifted the 4th manifest and turned it so the red margin note faced the hall. Escort captain notation, route clear, no contact, full load transferred to Chancellery Annex Granary. There is no Annex Granary levy exemption, Jasper added. Sable looked at Brevik. Response? Brevik's mouth tightened. Administrative rerouting authority under emergency provision. Cite it, Sable said. Brevik opened his code tube, rifled, paused too long. Alaric's fingers dug into throne armwood hard enough that splinters lifted. The wolf beneath his skin did not surface this time. Discipline held, and that restraint read as support more loudly than teeth. Jasper stepped from the moon ring to the evidence table, palms visible, protocol clean. Elder Sable, with leave, Jasper requests pre-trial counsel note be entered. You informed His Majesty this bond was coercive under wartime duress and legally distinct from voluntary mate bond. Therefore, heirs cannot be compelled as validity test within provisional term. Sable nodded once. Entered. That line mattered. Brevik's air pressure blade dulled against it in front of every delegate. He shifted tactics. Even if levy discrepancies exist, they do not bear on Luna fitness. They bear on petition motive, Jasper said, and on whether this challenge was staged to clear oversight. General Evo spoke from the guard line, voice level. Border companies reported short grain ration in late thaw. If levies were diverted, readiness suffered. Brevik turned on him. This is not military testimony. It is state stability testimony, Ivo replied. You invoked stability. Sable lifted his staff before Brevik could retort. Witnesses have established probable fraud in petition process and levy handling. Full trial reconvenes at dusk by same bell, same dais, same witnesses, as ritual requires. He struck stone once. Recess. The hall broke into controlled chaos. Delegates clustered by pack colors, hands slicing air. Nobles hissed behind sleeves. Scribes carried tablets at a run. Guards sealed side doors. Alaric descended from the throne line and stopped at an arm's length from Jasper, close enough that she could see a crescent of blood where he had bitten the inside of his cheek to keep the wolf contained. Did you know before today? Jasper asked quietly. I knew there were defects in the claim, he said. Sable told me in council this morning exactly how coercion tainted form. I did not know Brevik tied that to levy theft. You let him call for Jasper's removal. I let law be visible. His jaw tightened. If I crushed him from the throne, they'd call it mating fever and ignore the record. The answer was brutal and accurate. Mara Reed joined them, ink smudged along her left thumb. "He'll aim at chain of custody tonight," she said. "He'll say Mara altered copies." "Can you prove primary source?" Jasper asked. Mara tapped her temple with the pen butt. "Order of marks, weight of tablet edges, tiny chip on the 7th receipt corner. Mara can prove all of it if they keep him from shouting." Evo approached then, stopping just outside their tight triangle. "For the dusk hearing, I can post guard at evidence table. No hands except witness and judge." "Do it," Jasper said. Evo looked to Alaric first, received a nod, then gave Jasper one. "Done." During recess, Jasper went to the small council chamber behind the hall, where old maps curled inside cedar frames and one cracked basin held meltwater for hand washing. Elder Sable entered without ceremony, set his ash staff against the wall, and pressed both palms to the table as though bracing against wind. "You pushed farther than custom prefers," he said. Custom preferred Jasper's silence. "Custom also keeps blades sheathed." Jasper poured water over her fingers, watching diluted ink from Mara Reed's touch on her sleeve bleed blue into basin cracks. "You taught Jasper in 1422 that provisional is not servitude. If challenge can be raised, challenge can be answered." Sable exhaled through his nose. "I taught precedent. You are now trying to alter it. Trying to keep it from being weaponized." He studied her long enough that hall noise seemed to recede. "If fraud stands, precedent will bend. Will you bend with it?" His gaze dropped to his staff, then returned. "If the law is shown, yes." A knock sounded on the half-open chamber door. Mara Reed stepped in without waiting for full invitation, as protocol allowed for active witness officers during trial recess. "3 delegates asking for private audience," Mara said. "House Kett, House Brune, Pac Lorne." "No private audience," Sable said immediately. Mara nodded. "Already refused." They were polite for 30 breaths, then less polite. Jasper turned. What did they want? To ask whether a temporary withdrawal would calm the hall and preserve dignity. Mara's mouth thinned. And whether Jasper would accept a ceremonial title in exchange. Sable made a low sound of disgust. "Corridor settlement during open hearing is contamination." "Then they know this is working," Jasper said. Mara held out a folded strip of paper. "Also this, passed by a page near the archive stair." Jasper opened it. No signature, only 3 words in hurried graphite. "7th receipt matters." Mara already knew, Mara said, but someone on Brevic's side did too. Sable took the strip, burned it over a lamp, and dropped ash into the basin. "All the more reason for fixed table guard and controlled handling." When dusk bled into the high windows in bruised violet bands, the same bell was brought down from its bracket and rehung over the dais line for reconvening, as ritual demanded continuity. Same hall, same dais, same witnesses. The phrase passed from usher to guard to scribe until it felt like a spell fixing reality in place so no one could later claim the verdict was born elsewhere. 47 delegates answered roll again. 9 Ash Circle judges took their seats again. Alaric sat again, this time with both hands flat on the throne arms not gripping. Jasper stood where she had stood at noon. Mara Reed stood at the evidence table inside Evo's red cord perimeter. Brevic arrived last, robe changed, face powdered to hide sweat. Sable struck the bell with a padded mallet. Bronze thunder rolled up the pillars. "Trial reconvened," he said. Brevic opened with confidence rebuilt from anger. He challenged every document origin, accused the scribe bench of faction loyalty, argued arithmetic errors in tariff application, and implied that Jasper had coached Mara to fabricate entries to protect status. He moved fast, legal terms stacked like stones in a flood wall. Mara answered point by point. When he questioned manifest authenticity, she produced dispatch twine fibers matching border route dye. When he challenged receipt pairing, she demonstrated treasury notch patterns cut by quartermaster knives. When he mocked her memory, Sable ordered blind recitation. Mara listed all 12 manifests by route mark, load stamp, and receiving chest number without looking down. Brevik's voice rose. Memory is not proof. Then let the marks prove it, Mara said, and slid forward the 7th receipt with its chipped corner. Primary tablet, edge fracture documented in archive inventory before today. Sable examined it, then passed it down the judge line. Each judge touched the chip and checked the archive notation beside it. Brevik pivoted to motive. Why would a chancellor steal grain coin from border levies he oversees? Jasper answered before Mara could be cornered. To buy loyalty, where paper loyalty failed. To starve border packs, then blame Luna oversight and force succession. Speculation, Brevik snapped. Not if co-conspirators are in your own payment slips, Mara said. The hall inhaled. Mara pulled 2 narrow payment tablets from the roll case and set them beside the manifests. Disbursements to 2 minor stewards outside wage schedule. Same wax hand as your private office mark. Amounts align with courier costs and false petition gathering. Brevik lunged a step toward the table. Ivo's guards crossed spear shafts in front of him before his second boot landed. Sable's staff struck stone. Hold position, Chancellor. Brevik froze, chest heaving. Powder had failed. Sweat shone at his lip. Those stewards acted without instruction. Your mark instructs, Mara Reed said. Brevik rounded on Jasper instead, desperate now. You are provisional. You were forced into bond. You have no true mate legitimacy. The attack should have cut. Instead, it opened the seam they needed. Elder Sable rose halfway from his seat and spoke with ritual authority that shut the room down. Record this. The 1421 claim right between Jasper Silvermane and Alaric Voss occurred under wartime compulsion. Under revised interpretation, coercive claim establishes emergency civic bond only. It is not equivalent to voluntary mate bond and cannot be used as sole basis to compel heir production or invalidate office during provisional term. He sat. So ruled for this trial. There were no cheers, only a heavy shifting of breath and cloth as delegates recalculated. Alaric looked at Sable, then at Jasper, and inclined his head the width of a blade. Brevik had 1 card left. Attack Jasper, as destabilizing. You would split Wolflaw and Crown Law, he said. You would make a kingdom of clauses. Wolflaw already existed, Jasper said. Crown Law already existed. You exploited the gap. Jasper is sealing it. His laugh cracked. With what authority? With Ash Circle authority when fraud proves your petition rotten, Jasper replied. Sable turned to the judge line. Deliberation. 9 judges leaned together, cloaks touching. No murmurs leaked. Jasper counted breaths by the bell rope's slight swing. Alaric did not move. Mara gripped her pen so hard her knuckles blanched. Ivo watched doors and crowd in one sweep, war captain reading fault lines. When the judges straightened, Sable stood. By 9-seat judgment, he said, petition to remove Jasper Silvermane is void for fraud. Chancellor Brevik Thorn is found guilty of levy diversion and process manipulation involving 12 grain caravans and 18,000 silver marks. Sentence: immediate removal from office, asset confiscation, and exile under guard. The 2 minor stewards named in associated payment slips receive confiscation and exile by attached writ. Brevik made a sound like a choking cough. You cannot exile a council chief by dusk trial. Sable lifted the code board. Clause 21 allows immediate sentence when fiscal theft threatens border provisioning. Ivo stepped forward. By judgment, I enforce. 2 guards took Brevik's arms. He twisted once, face red, then saw spear points and went rigid. As they led him past the delegates, no one spoke in his defense. His polished shoes left damp prints where melted snow clung from the outer corridor. The verdict was not the ending. Ritual demanded reversal in public form, not just punishment in legal text. Sable announced reinvestiture by immediate crown right, same dais, same witness set, before dispersal. If they dismissed and reconvened later, rumor could rot the outcome by morning. Attendants brought the moon circlet from its cedar coffer. Not new, not ornamental. Silver band with wolf head terminals worn smooth, where generations of thumbs had pressed blessings. Sable held it while Jasper knelt at the center inlay. "State office claim," he said. "Jasper Silvermane," she answered, knees on cold stone, voice steady. By witnessed right and proven service, Jasper claims Luna office with expanded charge over treaty and levy oversight. State witness assent. From the delegate rows came calls by pack sign, 47 voices layered rough and clear. From the judge line came 9 staff taps in sequence. From the guard line came Evo's hand to chest. From the throne, Alaric rose and descended until he stood directly behind Jasper. Sable lowered the circlet to her brow. Metal-kissed skin, heavier than memory. "Office confirmed," he said. "Crown Luna by judgment." The words landed through Jasper's chest. Crown Luna. Not provisional, not pending. She stood. Alaric moved to her right side, not ahead. That placement alone would travel farther than proclamations. Sable gestured to Mara Reed. "Court scribe Mara Reed, step forward." Mara did, blinking once like she expected interruption. "By demonstrated custody, integrity, and trial service, the court appoints you Keeper of Seals," Sable said. "You will oversee registry chains for levy, treaty, and succession records." Mara swallowed, then bowed exactly to protocol depth. Mara Reed accepts. Evo approached last in formal cadence, drew his sword halfway and reversed it, offering hilt forward in oath form. "As General of Crown Forces," he said, "I swear enforcement of this judgment and the decrees that follow." Alaric placed 2 fingers on the blade's spine. Jasper placed 2 beside his. The hall should have emptied after that, but one unresolved fracture remained: Wolf Law and Crown Law. If left implied, the next brevet would grow in the same seam. So they drafted under witness before the fire basins burned out. A long table was hauled to the dais edge. Mara Reed, now Keeper of Seals, spread fresh vellum and mixed ink with careful drops from a black glass vial. Sable sat to review wording. Jasper stood beside him, dictating clause structure from envoy training burned into muscle memory. "Title," Sable said. "Dual Oath Protocol," Jasper answered. Mara wrote. "Clause 1," Jasper said. "In crisis, Wolf Law protective impulse cannot override open evidentiary process for succession and levy disputes." Alaric spoke without waiting to be invited. Clause 2. Crown Law cannot use coerced wartime bond as private legitimacy test for heirs." Mara's pen scratched steady. Clause 3, Jasper added. "When Luna or King is challenged, Ash Circle right may be invoked without penalty, and same bell witness continuity is mandatory for reconvened trial." Sable nodded. "Include judge quorum of 9 for binding verdict." "Include delegate roll call," Ivo said from behind them. 47 present tonight showed why witness count matters. Jasper looked back at him. Agreed. They continued into enforcement language, and the work slowed in the right way. Not dramatic, meticulous. Sable demanded exact verbs. Evo asked that "may secure" be replaced with "shall secure" in the section assigning guard custody during active evidentiary hearings. Mara Reed paused twice to ask whether custody transfer should include hand-to-hand witness names or only seal marks. Jasper answered, "Both, always," and Sable approved. Alaric requested that the protocol cross-reference military provisioning law so no future council could claim levy audits interfered with defense. Before signatures, Sable required council vote on air pressure suspension because that blade had cut too many decisions in shadow. Delegate whispers rose, then order was called. By counted assent, air deliberation pressure was suspended for 5 years. Jasper watched shoulders in the hall physically drop when the count passed. Even those who had wanted heirs now accepted breathing room over blood frenzy. Alaric signed first as king, his signature a heavy angular stroke. Jasper signed second as Crown Luna, hand steadier than it had been at Red Ford. Sable signed third as ritual judge. Evo marked military enforcement. Mara Reed entered registry line and, as keeper of seals, applied the first impression herself, clean, centered, no smudge. Then came the dual oath itself, spoken aloud on the moon dais, where the demand to step down had begun. Alaric faced Jasper, right hand over his chest, left hand open toward the hall. I, Alaric Voss, bind crown power to lawful witness, and to Jasper Silvermane's authority in treaty and levy oversight. I will not cloak coercion as consent. Jasper answered with mirrored form. I, Jasper Silvermane, bind Luna office to open process, and to Alaric Voss's crown duty in defense and judgment. I will not cloak fear as precedent. Sable lifted his staff. Dual oath, witnessed and ratified. The staff struck stone. The sound moved through Jasper's bones and settled there. After midnight, the hall finally emptied to embers and boot scuffs. Snow hissed against outer grates. The moon inlay at Jasper's feet was dull now, no sun or torch left to strike it. Mara Reed remained at the evidence table, stacking manifests into archive order with obsessive care. Jasper crossed to her and held out a hand for the chipped 7th receipt. "Keep it with the trial packet," Jasper said. "I was planning to," Mara replied, dry as old vellum. Then softer. "Keeper of seals. That sounds like someone else's life." "It sounds like the one Mara Reed already lived." Mara smiled without showing teeth, tucked the receipt into waxed wrap, and tied it with black thread. She labeled the bundle in 3 places: front, spine, and tagtail, then handed it to a junior records runner with instructions repeated twice. The runner's eyes were wide, but he repeated each instruction correctly, and Mara dismissed him only after checking his grip and route. At the far end of the dais, Ivo oversaw transfer orders for Brevik and the 2 stewards named in the slips. Confiscation inventory lists were being drawn by torchlight. Land plots, coin chests, bonded stores, winter fodder reserves, and 2 leased mills attached to Brevik's household trust. Exile writs were sealed before dawn, so no sympathizer could delay departure at morning gate. Alaric waited near the throne steps, shoulders finally loose, wolf settled for the first time all day. Jasper joined him with the dual oath vellum in her hands. "You almost broke him when he touched the table," Jasper said. "I almost broke everything," he answered, "but you didn't." He looked at the moon inlay, then at her. "At Red Ford they forced a bond and called it peace. Tonight we made terms and called it law." Jasper nodded once. "Keep choosing this in public, and fragile stops being fragile." They walked the length of the hall together, side by side, checking details because victory rots when paperwork fails. Mara Reed showed them the new seal chest placement under her custody. 1 chest for levy documents, 1 for succession instruments, 1 for treaty packets, each with twin lock brackets requiring both keeper key and judge key. Evo confirmed guard rotation for archive room through morning session. Sable, still awake despite the hour, reviewed the decree one final time and inserted a cross-reference line tying Clause 12 challenges to the new protocol, so future councils could not pretend ignorance. By first light, copies were posted at 3 gates: Palace, Market, and Barracks. 47 delegate marks were appended in rotating shifts as witnesses prepared to depart. Some left muttering, some thoughtful, none able to claim hidden process. The trial had happened in full view. Brevik's exile cart rolled out under guard before the sun cleared the eastern ridge. No parade, no crowd, only iron-shod wheels and slush, and a stripped signet box chained at Ivo's saddle. The two minor stewards were sent on separate roads with confiscation writs attached to their neck cords, as sentence required. One steward attempted to bribe a gate sergeant with an emerald clasp before departure. Ivo had him shackled until the road marker and added contempt notation to the writ. When council reconvened for routine docket 2 days later, Jasper's chair was no longer set a half-pace back. It sat level with the king's table edge. Carpenters had even adjusted the footrest height to match the king's platform line, which meant someone in household staff understood exactly what signal was being sent. Mara Reed presented the first weekly seal chain report as keeper. Levy entries, treaty packets, succession petitions, all custody marks logged with time and hand order. Sable accepted it without amendment. Ivo requested certified copies for military quartermasters so border provisioning could be tracked independently. Jasper approved and signed. Heir petitions that had been queued were stamped, suspended by 5-year vote, and returned to origin houses with citation. Some houses protested in writing. The replies were identical, sealed clean, impossible to misread. Mara Reed supervised each outgoing packet and logged courier names at departure and arrival both, ending the old gap where lost notices had once been convenient. At sunset on the 7th day, Alaric and Jasper stood once more on the moon dais, this time with no bell call, no accusation, only a public reading of the revised precedent so market runners and stable hands could hear what nobles had heard. Sable read slowly, each clause clear. When he finished, he turned not to the throne, but to Jasper and said, "Crown Luna, do you affirm enforcement?" "I affirm," Jasper said. He turned to Alaric. "King, do you affirm limitation under protocol?" "I affirm," Alaric answered. Ivo drew his sword and touched the flat to the stone in salute. Mara Reed pressed the keeper's seal into the reading copy and held it up so the crowd could see the impression. No one demanded Jasper step down again. They might one day challenge her, because law allowed challenge. That was part of the strength of what they had built. But challenge would now arrive through a corridor with windows, not a trapdoor. By winter's end, border granaries reported full intake restoration. The missing 18,000 marks were partly recovered through confiscations and partly replaced from reserve by decree. The 12 caravan routes ran under new duplicate logging. 1 copy to Treasury, 1 to Keeper of Seals, 1 to Military Quartermaster. Brevik's old blind corner closed. Mara Reed began training 2 junior SEAL clerks drawn from different pack regions so custody knowledge would not rest in one pair of hands. Sable approved the appointments after testing both clerks in open chamber on order of custody recitation. Ivo added a monthly reconciliation drill between garrison stores and levy entries. Quartermasters grumbled, then complied when shortages stopped surprising them. Alaric signed the budget transfer to fund sealed tablet cabinets in border outposts, and Jasper attached treaty oversight authority to the same order so local captains could not block auditors by claiming military privilege. In private, Alaric and Jasper remained what they had always been, 2 people bound first by compulsion, now choosing structure over pretense. They did not rename coercion as love. They did not pretend old harm vanished. They built something else, ledger line by ledger line, oath by oath, with witnesses. At the next winter conclave, when the bell rang and delegates took their places, no one looked at the moon dais as if it belonged to men deciding Jasper's fate in side rooms. They looked at it as a court where records could survive ambition. Mara Reed sat at the keeper's desk with 3 seal boxes and a sharpened pen, unflinching. Sable entered with the same ash staff, a little slower, no less exact. Evo stood by the guard line, pragmatic as stone, enforcing what had been sworn. Alaric sat the throne and left the center of the dais clear when proceedings required Jasper's voice first. Jasper wore the circlet that had once felt borrowed and now fit the weight of her skull like a tool made for long use. The hall remembered what happened when a demand met teeth, and then law.